are a welcome sight as always.
You must find these ancient words before Malcolm does. If you do not, then I fear any victory by the Lord's alliance will prove meaningless.
Hello, Wicked here. In this video, I want to talk about NeverWinter and how it got me into D&D. This is also a review of the game, kind of, but mostly D&D as a whole. I won't be showing any gameplay past Act 1, just to keep things spoiler free. So let's start with some backstory. Growing up, I never had many friends, let alone friends that were even interested in fantasy stories or games. I kind of knew what D&D was, but never looked into it. So I'm sure D&D vets will cringe at this, but D&D didn't pique my interest until it appeared on Stranger Things, and seeing how they roleplayed, and the Dungeon Master controlling the story. And I thought, whoa, this is D&D? This looks badass. So instead of jumping straight into tabletop, I wanted to try out the games to get a better visual understanding of it. I bought just about every game that is under the D&D name and games similar to it. I've only played a few of them before Neverwinter. The first one was Baldur's Gate 1. I made 2 characters for that playthrough, which were the Elven sisters. The oldest is named Celira. I would say she's chaotic neutral. She's a wood elf ranger that doesn't care about anything or anyone that isn't her sister or the elven race. She's very selfish and likes to start trouble. Her sister is named Solana. She's lawful good and a paladin / cleric type that likes to tank everything and being the healer that wants to protect her older sister. After playing Baldur's Gate 1 for a while, I tried getting immersed in the world. But with how dated the game looks and feels, I couldn't get connected, and after an hour or so, it was just putting me to sleep. I'm sure a lot of people say this game is great, but if it's putting me to sleep, then it fails at being entertaining. But that's my opinion. Next, I tried Original Sin games. I know they're not D&D IP, but they're, well, close enough gameplay wise. First game I got to level 10 and then I quit. Mostly because I thought the city map was the only thing in the game. But I had to spoil myself to see if there was like newer areas, which there are. So I might go back and finish it one day. After Original Sin 1, I tried the sequel. I came close to beating it. I got to Act 4 and just stopped playing. That's because when a game is longer than my interest in it, I get bored. I don't feel like loading the game up again the next day. And I was around like 60 hours at that point. After 60 hours in the game, I just want to call it quits. I've played like possibly 3 100-hour games, and I completed only one of them. Next is Baldur's Gate 3. I will say this game came close to getting me into D&D. I started with a Dark Urge Tiefling, which is a pure fire wizard, because I like the idea of a wizard mastering one element, then knowing all elements. I like making restrictions on classes or builds I do for any game. For example, I've done countless this weapon type only runs in Dark Souls games. But back to Baldur's Gate 3. I got up to 2/3 of Act 3 and then I quit because I accidentally skipped 70% of Act 1. But that's because I was doing a side quest that took me to Grinforge, and I completed that area and I saw an elevator. I took that elevator and it took me to Act 2, which I did not know that at the time. And I thought the side quest was still going. I was like, wow, this side quest is fucking amazing. It just keeps going on and on. I can't wait for what Act 2 and 3 has in store for me. Then I got an achievement saying I beat Act 2. I was like, wait, what? What happened to Act 1? And at this point in the game, I was not allowed to go back to Act 1. Otherwise, it will send me to a game over screen. So I was forced to go into Act 3. And after like 10 hours in Act 3, I got bored and I quit. Missing out most of Act 1 ruined my experience. And yeah, it's my fault at the end of the day for being retarded and not reading quest logs or looking at the damn map. But since patch 7's out, I'll probably go back and finish my playthrough. So a year later, after Baldur's Gate 3 came out, I decided to play Neverwinter Nights randomly. And so far, I've only beaten the Wailing Death story. And I've heard people from their forums, YouTubers, and their comment sections saying the Wailing Death is dog shit. And it's the worst thing the game has to offer. Which blows my mind, because this whole campaign, well, except Act 2, I'll get that in a minute. Other than Act 2, I love this campaign. Act 1 was great with the storytelling of the plague, destroying the city, and you have to be the hero. And there's a cult that's behind it, and you have to figure out who it is. Act 2 is really long and drawn out, and I had to complete Act 2 twice. Because I like to save my saves over autosave. And this game, it doesn't transfer into a manual save. So if I start a new campaign, it overwrites that autosave. So I had to redo Act 2, which was hell. But Act 3 and 4 are great. And for the Wailing Death campaign, I decided to remake Solana from Baldur's Gate 1. I kept the same playstyle, so she's a paladin cleric. I went 2 points into paladin so she can use swords, because clerics can't use them for some reason. And the last level 4 immediately to fear. The rest went to cleric. And by the end game, I was OP as hell, like 20 buffs, rarely ever getting hit, and dishing out shit tons of damage. The highest I've seen my crit hitting was like 70 damage, and with improved cleave, I was playing whack-a-mole on every enemy, because I would just one shot, one shot, one shot. It was so satisfying. For an old game, the combat's pretty basic from what I've seen as a cleric, so I don't know how archers or magic users play out. But how I played, it reminded me a lot of old school RuneScape, where how you just basic attack, miss, hit. Future playthroughs, I do want to play as a ranger archer. Using a bow in real life or a video game are one of my favorite things to do, and bows are just so cool to me. And another character I want to make is a support druid that focuses on crowd control and summoning and healing. I like the idea of her being the goddess of the forest and make her be true neutral. I got the idea of her from Dragon Age Origins, the goddess of the forest girl on one of those elves quests, and the Nox from Stargate SG-1. The Nox only appeared on the show like 4 times out of 10 seasons, but they left an impression on me, and they were true neutral and very passive. They would not interfere in any other business, even at the cost of their life, unless you like persuade them very neutrally for them to do something for you. Next, I want to talk about the enemies. Thanks to this game, when I see an enemy like Cobalt, Bugbear, or Troll, being like, oi, I know those guys. Also, I find it cool their design hasn't changed much over the years. From Neverwinter to Baldur's Gate 3, they basically look the same. So Neverwinter nailed their designs perfectly. I do want to talk about the modding scene, since this is where the bread and butter comes from. It's insane how many mods this game has. There's a site called NeverWinter Vault that hosts all these mods, or you can go on the Steam Workshop, but mostly is on the site. And they host like full-on campaigns, cosmetic, and a lot of people say the fan-made campaigns are as good or even better than the official ones. If you're not tech savvy, they have a program that does the installation for you. All you have to do is copy the link and paste it, and just click install, and it's done. Then you just go into game, click the local tab, and click play. I've downloaded like 30 new campaigns to play on my Steam Deck in bed or when I go on a road trip. So as a newcomer, I would say NeverWinter 9 is a good start to get into D&D. And you want to do a little research on making a build on your class so you don't get stuck in the mid game and realize your build sucks ass. But that happens quite a lot to people, and that happened to me. But that's all I have to say about D&D and NeverWinter. I want to get this off my chest because I'm just struggling to get into D&D for years now, but I just couldn't get into it. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.